goes to you.
I will try to be relatively brief in my answers.
Okay. So, I wanted to ask you first, what kind of crisis do you think that this is now the one that the Eurozone is going through? Is it like a financial, is it a political, an economic, or a banking crisis?
Is it possible to answer yes to the above? I think for some time now it's been a combination of several crises. A banking crisis, Eurozone-wide, a debt crisis in portions of Southern Europe. There is a real estate crisis, and there is certainly a political crisis afflicting a number of the countries. So the problem is that these different crises are not separate from one another. They interact in very destructive ways, and there is absolutely no sign, I think, of that changing.
Mm-hmm. I would like to start with Greece and the countries of Southern Europe in particular. Now it's been 2 years after the first bailout package in Greece, with severe consequences for the middle class, the Greek middle class. Now we see Spain and Italy in it, Ireland, of course. So now, before September, the Greek government has to adopt new measures, which again are further cuts in pensions and healthcare. And we saw the unemployment hitting a record high of 23%, 52% amongst the youth. And so do you think, is this the way forward still? 2 years after?
No, I don't think it's the way forward, and I think more of the same will be no more successful than it was in the past. Every time Greece has been forced to raise taxes and cut government spending, the recession has been worse than forecast. The improvement in the budget has been less than anticipated. That requires more cuts, resulting in a deeper recession and more pain not only for the Greek middle class, I think, but for the whole society. So I think this plan will not work without some radical changes. I think the Greek government is right to ask for more time now. I'm not certain it will get it from the Troika. I think Southern European politicians are right to ask for the ECB to do more. It's not clear yet that it will, although there are reasons to hope. I think the punishment that Greece has suffered is disproportionate to the mistakes it made. There were plenty of mistakes that were allowed to develop over the years, but a 17% fall in GDP is a disproportionate punishment. I think given the stakes now, Greece needs a foreign aid program rather than more debt. It needs aid rather than loans. And the German government would be very wise to provide it in the same way that the U.S. provided a Marshall Plan to Germany after World War II. But it doesn't look like German political opinion is moving in that direction. To the contrary, it's moving the other way. So it's hard to be hopeful. It's clear what should be done from an economic point of view. Politically, it's hard to see how it can come about.
So you answered my two next questions with your answer about how do you judge Germany's relentless, basically, stance on Greece, and whether you think it is relevant still right now to accuse Greece as such for what is happening inside Greece, and also for this domino effect that they were talking about for the other Southern European countries. we see now Spain and Italy. Do you think that the same recipe that has been followed for Greece should be followed for Spain and Italy? And yes, Greece does need a Marshall Plan, as you said. Could the Eurozone afford a Marshall Plan for Spain too?
Well, I think Spain's problems are somewhat different than Greece's. Spain's problem is first and foremost a banking and real estate problem. Greece, on the other hand, had a budget problem that Spain did not have until the crisis hit, producing a recession. So I do not think that every Southern European country has the same illness. I don't think every Southern European country needs the same medicine. And part of the problem is that the creditors, first and foremost Germany, have seen them all and treated them all in the same way. So Greece is no longer alone in the sense that it is denied the respect of the German Bundestag. They're no more respectful of Spain or Portugal. Mm-hmm. I think that Mrs. Merkel is very cautious, and she's trying to balance. She understands what needs to be done, more help for Southern Europe, including from the ECB, but she has to balance that against her domestic constituency, which is suspicious of extending more help. She's very careful in maintaining her balancing act because there will be an election coming in Germany, perhaps in a year. But I do think there has been a failure of German leaders to explain to the public the nature of the crisis, that it's not simply Greeks borrowing too much. Someone lent them the money. It was German banks lending too much, too recklessly, and that the German public is really only aware of half the story, and it's the role of political leaders to explain.
Oh, if they don't want to explain, that's the thing. I guess it's not on their favor to explain this. I visited Germany, and it was quite impressive what the German public opinion thought of Greece, as well as what the journalists there thought of this story. And I was wondering, what do you think? I mean, you have answered this, but what do you think of what do you think that the public should know in terms of the German development all this year, and the German development, industrial development in regards to the rest of Europe, and the money that the rest of the Europe borrowed in order for.
Well, I would say number one, the German public needs to be aware that the euro has been a great thing for them. Germany has had a growth miracle driven by exports, and without the euro keeping Germany's exchange rate down, they couldn't have had the export boom. The banks were highly profitable until the crisis, and they were highly profitable partly by lending lots of money to Southern Europe for real estate development, to finance governments. So the idea that and they need to be aware that for other countries to run current account deficits, somebody has to be running a surplus, and that Germany's surplus is simply the mirror image, or the other side of the same coin, as the Southern European deficits. That this crisis was concocted by Europe as a whole, and not simply by any one country. Greece had made its own distinctive contribution, but it is not responsible for the woes of the euro area all by itself.
Let me just read this and continue.